Hey there, you looking kinda cute. Please consider subscribing and check out our Patreon for more. Enjoy the video. Working in a corporate office, there lay a secret tucked deep within me. My name is Owen, a regular guy to most who knew me. Yet, beneath my typical suits and ties, there was a yearning, a longing to express a part of myself that I kept hidden from the world. Each morning, as I got ready for work, my gaze would drift to the back of my closet. There, hidden under layers of conventional men's clothing, were the items that truly spoke to me. Dresses, skirts, and blouses in various colors and styles. They were my hidden treasures, each piece carefully selected, each representing a piece of the identity I was too scared to reveal. I would touch the soft fabrics, imagine how they would feel against my skin, but the fear of judgment and misunderstanding always held me back. At work, I was known for my quiet demeanor and hard-working attitude. I did my job well, often staying late to finish up reports or prepare for the next day's meetings. My colleagues respected me, but I always felt like I was just going through the motions, playing a part that was expected of me. This internal conflict was something I grappled with daily. The desire to express my true self was strong, but so was the fear of how my coworkers, friends, and family would react if they knew. I often found myself lost in thought, wondering if there would ever come a day when I could be free to show the world who I really was. One ordinary Tuesday, something changed. A new coworker joined our team. Her name was Julia, and she was openly transgender. From the moment she introduced herself, I was both captivated and envious of her confidence. She wore her identity proudly, unafraid of what others might think. Julia had a vibrant energy about her, and she quickly became well-liked in the office for her friendliness and expertise. I found myself observing Julia from afar, admiring how she navigated the workplace with such ease. She wore professional women's attire that suited her perfectly, and her hair was always styled impeccably. There was an air of authenticity about her that I longed for myself. Over time, Julia and I started to interact more. It began with small talk in the break room, casual conversations about work projects, and gradually we began to have lunch together. I was fascinated by her stories, her journey to becoming who she was. Julia had a way of making everyone feel comfortable around her, and I admired that deeply. One lunchtime, as we sat in the cafeteria, Julia shared a story about a challenge she had faced in her previous job due to her identity. I listened intently, feeling a connection to her struggles, yet I remained silent about my own. It felt too risky to open up, even to someone who might understand. Back at my desk, I found my thoughts drifting to the dresses in my closet. I imagined what it would be like to wear one to work, to be as bold as Julia. But the thought also filled me with dread. What would my colleagues say? Would they laugh, or worse, would they look at me with disdain? That evening, as I returned home, I stood in front of my closet for a long time. I ran my fingers over the fabrics of the hidden clothes, each one a silent reminder of the person I was too afraid to be. I wondered if there would ever be a day when I could wear them without fear, without feeling like I was doing something wrong. As I lay in bed that night, thoughts of Julia and her confidence filled my mind. She was living proof that it was possible to be true to oneself, even in a world that might not always understand. But for me, the fear was still too great, the risk too high. I closed my eyes, hoping that sleep would bring some respite from the turmoil inside me. And so my life continued in this way, a constant battle between desire and fear. Each day I wore the mask, while inside a different identity yearned to be set free. But for now, those desires remained concealed, hidden away like the dresses in my closet, waiting for the day when they could finally be brought into the light. My friendship with Julia grew stronger. She was different from everyone else at work. Julia always had a smile and a kind word for everyone. I noticed how people in the office treated her with respect. It made me think a lot about myself. One day, during lunch, Julia and I sat at our usual spot in the cafeteria. She was talking about a movie she had seen over the weekend. I listened, laughing at her funny descriptions of the scenes. It felt good to have a friend at work, someone I could talk and laugh with. As we chatted, I couldn't help but notice how comfortable Julia seemed in her own skin. She wore a pretty blouse and a skirt, and she looked really nice. I wished I could be that comfortable. Inside, I had so many questions for her, so many things I wanted to ask about her life, her choices. But I was scared. What if she thought my questions were silly? Julia must have noticed I was a bit quiet. She stopped talking about the movie and looked at me, her head tilted slightly. "Is everything okay, Owen?" she asked. I hesitated, then nodded. "Yeah, just a lot on my mind, I guess," I replied, trying to sound casual. Julia smiled softly. "If you ever want to talk about anything, I'm here. I know what it's like to have a lot on your mind." Her words made me feel a bit better, but I still wasn't sure if I could share my biggest secret with her. After lunch, we went back to our desks, and the day went on as usual. Over the next few weeks, Julia and I started spending more time together. We would have lunch almost every day, and sometimes we would grab a coffee together in the morning. I learned a lot about her. She liked gardening, was good at drawing, and loved spicy food. She had a cat named Whiskers, who she said was the boss of her house. One day, while we were having coffee, Julia shared a story about a difficult time she had faced because of who she was. It was a story about not being accepted by some people, but she also talked about how she found friends who supported her. I listened to her, feeling a mix of sadness and admiration. She was so brave. After she finished her story, she looked at me. "Everyone has their own struggles, Owen, but it's important to find people who understand and support you," she said. I nodded, thinking about her words. I wished I could be brave like her. Days went by, and I found myself thinking more and more about telling Julia my secret. I wanted to talk to someone about how I felt, about my wish to wear the clothes that I had hidden in my closet. But every time I thought about saying it out loud, my throat felt tight, and I couldn't find the words. Finally, one day, I decided it was time to tell her. We were sitting in the cafeteria, just finishing our lunch. My heart was beating fast, and my hands felt sweaty. I took a deep breath. "Julia, can I tell you something? It's something I've never told anyone before," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. Julia put down her fork and looked at me, her eyes kind and attentive. "Of course, Owen. You can tell me anything." I took another deep breath, trying to find the courage. I've always felt different. Inside, I don't feel like the person everyone sees. I have these clothes, women's clothes, hidden in my closet. I want to wear them, but I'm scared. Scared of what people will think, scared of being judged. Julia listened without interrupting, her expression understanding. After I finished, there was a moment of silence. "Thank you for trusting me with this, Owen," Julia said gently. "It takes a lot of courage to share something so personal. I want you to know that I support you, no matter what." Her words made me feel a little better. It was like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. For the first time, I had shared my true feelings with someone, and it felt good to be understood. After I told Julia my secret, something inside me felt different. It was like I had opened a door that had always been locked. Julia was so kind and understanding. She didn't laugh or look at me strangely. Instead, she just listened. The next few days at work were a bit easier. I felt like I wasn't carrying such a big secret all by myself anymore. Julia would smile at me across the office, and I would smile back. It was nice to have a friend who knew the real me. One day, Julia and I were having lunch together when she said something that surprised me. "Owen, have you ever thought about wearing one of your dresses to work? I think you should do it. I'll be right here to support you." I almost choked on my sandwich. Wear a dress to work? The idea made me feel scared and excited at the same time. I don't know, Julia, what if people laugh at me? What if they think I'm weird? Julia put her hand on my arm. "Owen, people might be surprised at first, but it's important to be who you are. I'll be here with you every step of the way." I thought about it all afternoon. The idea of wearing a dress to work was scary, but it also felt right. It was something I had always wanted to do. That night at home, I stood in front of my closet, looking at my hidden clothes. I touched the soft fabric of the dresses and imagined what it would be like to wear them in front of everyone. The next morning, I woke up feeling nervous. Today was the day. I was going to wear a dress to work. I chose a pretty green dress that I had bought but never worn outside. It had short sleeves and a flowery pattern. I put it on and looked at myself in the mirror. For the first time, I felt like I was seeing the real me. I put on some light makeup, just a little bit to make my eyes stand out. I brushed my hair and put it in a neat style. Taking a deep breath, I grabbed my bag and left for work. My heart was pounding as I walked into the office. I could feel everyone's eyes on me. Some people looked surprised, some confused, and some didn't know where to look. I kept my head up and walked to my desk. Julia was already there, and she smiled at me. "You look beautiful, Owen," she said. I smiled back, feeling a bit more confident. The day went by slowly. Some people whispered when they thought I wasn't looking, but Julia was right there with me. She talked to me like it was any other day, and that helped a lot. At lunch, Julia and I sat together like always. A few of our coworkers came over and asked me about my dress. I was honest with them. I told them that I liked wearing women's clothes and that it made me feel happy. Some of them smiled and said I looked nice, which made me feel good. After work, Julia and I walked out together. "How do you feel?" she asked. "I feel free," I said. "Scared, but free." Julia nodded. "It's a big step, Owen, but I'm proud of you for taking it." The next morning, I woke up feeling a mix of nerves and excitement. After wearing a dress to work for the first time, I wondered what today would bring. I chose a different dress from my closet, a blue one with small white flowers. It made me feel happy just looking at it. At work, I noticed some people still looked at me strangely, but it didn't bother me as much as the day before. Julia was there just like she promised. She had a big smile when she saw me. "You look great today, Owen," she said. Throughout the day, I did my work like always. Some coworkers asked me questions about my clothes. I answered them honestly. I told them that wearing dresses made me feel good and that this was who I was. Some people seemed to understand, while others didn't say much. At lunchtime, Julia and I sat together. She talked about her weekend plans, and I listened, feeling more relaxed than I had in a long time. It was nice just to talk about normal things. After lunch, my boss called me into her office. My heart started beating fast. Was she going to tell me I couldn't wear dresses to work anymore? I walked in, trying to be brave. "Owen, I wanted to talk to you," my boss said. She didn't look angry, just serious. "I've noticed your change in attire. I want you to know that it's okay to express yourself here. As long as you're comfortable and it doesn't affect your work, you can wear what you like." I was surprised and relieved. "Thank you," I said. "It means a lot to me." When I left her office, I felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. My boss's words made me feel more accepted. The rest of the week went by. Each day, I wore a different dress from my collection. I started to feel more confident. Some people in the office even complimented my outfits. It was a new feeling, being noticed for something that made me happy. Julia was always there, chatting with me and making me laugh. Her support made everything easier. We became closer friends, and I was grateful for her kindness. One day, she suggested we go shopping together after work. "I know some great stores where you can find beautiful dresses," she said. The idea of shopping for dresses in public scared me a bit, but I also wanted to try. Julia promised she would be there the whole time. So after work, we went to a nearby mall. Julia led the way to a store with lots of pretty dresses. I felt nervous walking in, but Julia was right beside me. We looked through the racks of dresses. Julia helped me pick out a few to try on. In the fitting room, I tried on each dress, looking at myself in the mirror. Some of them looked really nice. It was fun trying on different styles and colors. When we left the store, I had 2 new dresses in my bag. I felt proud and a little excited to wear them to work. Weeks passed, and each day I felt more and more like myself. With every dress I wore, I felt stronger and happier. The people at work were getting used to seeing me in my new clothes. Some of them even said nice things about my outfits. It made me feel good to know they were accepting me. Julia was always there, helping me pick out clothes and giving me advice on how to do my makeup. She was a great friend, and I was lucky to have her. One day, I decided to start doing something new. I had been thinking about it for a while. I wanted to start taking medicine that would help me look more like how I felt inside. It was a big decision, and I was a bit scared, but I knew it was what I wanted. I talked to a doctor who was kind and helpful. She explained everything to me and answered all my questions. I started taking the medicine, and even though I knew it would take time to see any changes, I felt happy. It was like I was finally taking steps towards becoming the real me. Every morning, I looked in the mirror and saw small changes. My face started to look softer, and my body began to change too. It was exciting to see these changes. I felt like I was finally becoming who I was supposed to be. Julia was with me through it all. She helped me pick out new clothes that fit my changing body. We even went shopping for new shoes. It was a lot of fun, and I laughed more than I had in a long time. At work, people started calling me by a new name. I chose the name Olivia because it was a name I had always liked. It felt good to hear people call me Olivia. It was like they were seeing the real me. One day, Julia and I were sitting in the cafeteria having lunch like we always did. I looked around at all the people I worked with. Some of them had been surprised by my changes, but now they just treated me like anyone else. It made me feel happy and accepted. "Julia, thank you for everything," I said. "You've been such a good friend. You helped me be brave and be myself." Julia smiled. "I'm just happy to see you happy, Olivia. You're an amazing person, and I'm proud of you." We finished our lunch and went back to work. I felt light and happy, like I was walking on air. Everything felt right, like it was all falling into place. Months went by, and I continued to change. I felt more and more like myself every day. I was happy. Thanks for watching. Be sure to check out Patreon for a lot more content and early access to YouTube videos.